Welcome to the Allocations training video part 2. In this video, we will cover an overview of the allocation setup and processing pages to get started using allocations for advanced project by Progressus.
Now I'm going to drill down into a few of the screens just so you can see what they look like, get a better idea. So we've primarily put the new functionality in two places on the menu. One is under Setup. Excuse me, Setup has 5 new screens that have been added, and then Processing has 3. And on the processing side, really 2 of those are the ability to see the data. So let's drill down a little bit further. And we are creating videos for additional information on how to set this up. So this is not intended to be a full understanding of setup, but we have a couple screens where we can now define what kind of rates we need to use and assign them to the project. So you see we can set up burden, overhead, fringe, G&A rates, rate types. Those rate types will then allow us to run the calculations. We also have a hierarchy. So the concept of hierarchy is not every client wants to determine the fringe rate in the same manner. And so we want to give the client the ability to key off of key information in the system to determine what the fringe rate or overhead rate is. So you'll see the left-hand setup allows us to have multiple levels of hierarchy to determine which rate applies. And then the bottom right-hand column is an example of that setup. So for level 1, we have our rate is going to be based off of the project, the task, and the cost type. And so when those 3 things are true, then we can define, okay, in this instance, when it's project BP, task 101, and labor, we want to have a billing rate of 0.60 or whatever those numbers are, okay? So that allows us to be very flexible in our rates and give clients a lot of functionality. Now this screen is where everything kind of comes together. So this is our allocation setup. And in this instance, we're just giving the system a set of rules that allows us to combine all the information we know up until this point and tell it what to do. So the green box is telling it to say, go find these transactions so that we can apply some kind of rate to them. So the green says we're going to get labor or sub-labor or equipment, whatever those source records are. And then we're going to apply a rate to them. And that's the orange column. So we're going to say a B for burden rate, O for overhead, or G for G&A. Once we apply those rates, now we need to know, what are we going to do with that? Are we going to post it? And if we post it, what are we going to post it to? So level 2 says we're going to grab labor, we're going to apply B for burden rate, and then the results of that are going to post to fringe. And then the last column, so that's the blue column, and then the purple column just allows us to determine when that fringe is inserted, what's the cost and price going to be. So if we have both, that means we want to tell the system what the cost and the price are. If we have just billing in that column, we don't care about the cost. We're just creating a billing line. Or if it says direct usage, we're creating just a cost and no billing line. So a lot of things happening in the screen, all of it giving the user the exact, the ability to choose what's best for them. The last thing we do is link it to a project. So now we've linked our allocation method to a project and linked the rate table as well. And now we've covered the left-hand columns of the setup. Now we're just going to show a couple screenshots on the process. So we would have the ability to run process for a project or many projects at one time. We can tell it to run in preliminary or final. And when we do that, we can tell it what date range we want to run it for. So we can run it through a certain posting date. And that's the bottom choice at the bottom there. And when we post it in preliminary, or when we run it in preliminary, we now have the ability to evaluate the results. The bottom half of the screen is that same screen I just showed you with the allocation method, with the source, the rate, the posting, and then how it's posted. And what I want you to notice is for every line in the allocation method, we have those same lines in the results table. So there's 7 lines in the allocation method. We get 7 rows in the results table. And so you can see on line 2, we will get a fringe posting, and it will tell us what rate it used. We'll get an overhead posting and a G&A. So this makes it easy, hopefully, for the client to evaluate the results before they post it in final. And the last step is to post it in final, and that goes to our allocation final table.
Thank you for watching part 2 of the Allocations training for advanced projects by Progressus. For more training on this topic, be sure to watch our other videos in this series.